Alright, so I've been talking about carbs a lot in the first few videos on this channel, and that's because not only do we eat a lot of carbs, our average carb intake as a society, about 50% of our calories come from carbs. And the government recommends 45 to 65% come from carbs. So carbs are a big part of our life, so that's why I want to talk about them. So we're going to talk about what are some good carbs versus bad carbs. And most of the carbs we consume are bad carbs. So just some quick basic facts here. There are not any essential carbs. I mean, why is the government recommending we get most of our energy from carbs when there aren't any essential carbs that exist at all? There are essential fatty acids that we get through fats, and there are essential amino acids that we get through proteins, but there are no essential carbs. Another thing most carbs do, especially refined, is they increase your glycemic index, which is bad. It's not a good thing. That's why we're seeing so many people with type 2 diabetes now, and they have compromised abilities to use insulin properly because we're raising this glycemic index through high carb foods. Like I said, especially refined grains, which raise your glycemic index even more than whole wheat or the whole food. Refined grains are just terrible, and we're eating so much of this stuff now. So that's why eating carbs are bad for insulin and causing type 2 diabetes and all kinds of health problems like that. So I mean, it's okay to eat a little bit of carbs, but you don't want to be eating a ton of carbs. So we're going to get into some of the good sources of carbs and then the bad sources. All right, so now we're going to talk about some of the good carbs out there. So if you're going to consume carbs, which I think is fine, not 45 to 65%, but if you're going to consume carbs, these are the carbs you should be consuming. And I consume carbs all the time. I don't go overboard, but it's perfectly fine. So let's go through these. Potatoes, very high glycemic index. So again, be careful, especially if you have pre-diabetes or diabetes. Because again, if you have insulin resistance, you want to keep insulin as low as possible. This, and really all these, are going to make insulin go up. So potatoes, though, if you're a healthy person, I say go for these things. Have them. Again, not too many, but have them. So potatoes are, I printed off some of the nutritional facts of some of these foods here, so I'm just going to quickly go through these. You could look them up for yourself, but I mean, potatoes are, and this is just one potato, is very high in many B vitamins, B6, niacin, folate, thiamine, and it has a ton of minerals in it. Iron, magnesium, which a lot of people don't get, potassium, big source of potassium, 46%. That's another big deficiency, potassium. Most people don't get enough of that. So 46%, so about half your potassium in one potato. Manganese, copper, a lot of things it's good in. Now we go to rice. There's a debate over brown versus white. If you're going to consume rice, which I really don't, I'd prefer brown rice because white, you're taking off that husk. So I printed off brown rice here, decently high in some B vitamins, thiamine, niacin, B6. It's got some minerals in it, magnesium, phosphorus. It's got a lot of manganese, 107% of your RDA. So rice isn't as good as some of these other sources, but it's still okay if you want to consume a little bit of it. And then we have beans. I printed off garbanzo bean here. I love garbanzo beans. It's one of my favorite. But beans are just so great for your minerals. I mean, phenomenal source. So it has a lot of vitamin B6, a lot of folate, and I mean, if you go through all the minerals, it basically has all of them in good quantities. I mean, iron, magnesium, phosphorus, potassium, so zinc, copper. I mean, it's got a lot of things. So great source of minerals is beans there. So And then we have fruits. You want to be careful with fruits because they are high in sugar. You don't want to be consuming a lot of them. So I love to consume like one or two bananas per day, or one piece of fruit, one serving of fruit maybe. I mean, bananas, you hear, oh, potassium. They got a little bit of potassium. I think it's about 8 or 10% of your daily value, but really not too much. And you don't want to be consuming like 10 bananas a day. So that's like 150 grams of sugar. So you want to keep fruits low, but still a good source of some vitamins. And then we have whole grains. And I just printed off something too here. The glycemic index, this is according to Harvard, of Wonder white bread is 73. So that's going to be a significant increase in your insulin levels and in your blood sugar. However, whole grain bread, 100%, is 51. That's a dramatic difference. So that's the effect of refined grains. It raises your blood sugar more, causing more insulin to be secreted. Another thing with whole grain bread is it has the fiber still in it. So if you're going to consume grains, you want to be consuming whole grains. So it's, and I see no bad things. If you're a healthy adult with a healthy, or a healthy person with a healthy digestive system, it's perfectly okay to consume grains. If your digestive system is compromised and you have trouble digesting gluten, you may want to cut this out part-time until you get your digestive system up and going again. But whole grains are a good food. I think another thing with whole grains too, give me 1 second here. But again, good source of fiber. And this is one slice of bread. I mean, if you go through all the vitamins and minerals it has, like 7%, 9%, 6%. So it contributes a little bit to just about every mineral or vitamin out there for the most part. So whole grains, again, keep these things in moderation, but these things are going to give you, especially beans and potatoes, going to give you a boatload of minerals. And minerals are hard to come by from non-carb sources. So I think it's fine to consume these things on a moderate basis. And the most important thing, though, the number one thing to remember, and we'll get to this next, is no refined carbs and no refined sugars, or very, very low. Keep them to a minimum. So next, we're going to talk about the bad carbs. So lastly, we're gonna talk about the bad sources of carbs. Refined grains is a top one. I mean, just breads, cereals, pasta, cookies, just keep going on. I mean, anything that uses white flour is a refined grain. Just terrible for you. And I was actually looking up some data on the internet. And I was looking at the NHANES survey. It's a survey that the government does, and the one from 2000, a little bit outdated, but I'm sure it's still very, very similar now, because it's not like our society has undergone a rapid change in diet since 2000. But they found that, if anything, it's probably a little bit worse. But they found that, or it could be better, I guess, I don't know. But they found that 85% of the grains that Americans were consuming were non-whole grain. I mean, that's just terrible. So, yeah, you got to keep those out of your diet, people. I mean, that's just one of the worst things you could possibly eat. You don't hear too much about it. I mean, yeah, you hear refined grains, but you hear more about the dangers of fat and saturated fat and how that's bad. But the real killer in our diet is refined grains and refined sugar. I mean, obviously, we know that this is bad. I mean, 200 years ago, we were only consuming 2 pounds of sugar. Now it's 150 pounds. And lastly, so I mean, obviously, I've talked about these a lot already, refined grains and sugar in previous videos. And lastly, anything in excess is not good, because any carb, you're really raising your insulin, actually your blood sugar goes up first, and then insulin has to come in to bring that blood sugar down. That's what causes your crashes, your sugar crash. So anything in excess is going to not be good. And but especially refined grains, because like I was talking about, refined grains raise your blood sugar higher than a whole grain. So that's why I say anything in excess is not good for your insulin levels, in your blood sugar. So you want to keep carbs, again, a moderate amount, um, a low to moderate amount. A lot of people say, keep them like very low. I'm not going to go that far. I think maybe for a temporary diet, it's good to keep them very low. But for somebody like myself who's healthy, a healthy digestive system, a healthy weight, there's no reason why you can't consume carbs. Again, they're a great source of minerals, a great source of some vitamins. That is healthy carbs. As long as you keep these out of your diet, I think you'll be okay. And people are different, and different food preferences. Your body might take things differently, but go for it. Go for carbs, healthy carbs, however, not refined carbs. Sugar is, again, another. I mean, these two are probably the two worst culprits of many of the diseases we see in society now. Again, we've gone from 2 pounds of sugar to 150 pounds. I mean, that is just astronomical increase. Yet they keep talking about saturated fat, but in reality, saturated fat consumption, animal fat consumption, butter consumption have all plummeted in the past 100 years. But yet they keep talking about it like that's the cause of all these diseases. That's the cause of heart disease, even though, again, the consumption of fat has gone down. Just makes no sense. But they keep talking about it when the real killer is refined carbs and the excess consumption of them. I mean, you go to lastly, I'm about to finish here. I don't want to keep going on forever, but you go to anytime you go to a restaurant, you'll just see people with refined carbs on their plates. You'll see them eating a burger, or with spaghetti, or with a sandwich, or just most of the things people eat nowadays are just so many refined carbs. Like I said, 85% of grains people consumed in 2000 were non-whole grain. So there you go.